So on this Westpac decision not to fund Adani, the Resources Minister says they're wimps, and he's even suggested that perhaps Queenslanders should boycott the bank. Do you think there'll be support for that proposition, given there are a lot of jobs at stake here?
Well, they'll have to boycott all of the other retail and investment banks that have said the Adani project doesn't stack up. I mean, it says a lot about the priorities of this government, I think, that they treat the banks with kid gloves when it comes to the litany of financial advice and other scandals that have devastated the lives of thousands of Australian consumers, and we say warrant a banking royal commission. But when the banks say that they're not willing to lend to the government's favourite coal project, they jump all over them. I mean, I haven't heard Matt Canavan talk about a boycott because of that litany of scandals, but he's very quick to jump in and back in the interests of a foreign coal company. I mean, the Westpac Bank has made a commercial assessment about the economics of the Adani project that reflects the advice and the analysis of pretty much everyone I've seen in the finance sector, the retail banking sector, the investment banking sector, and that is that the economics of this project don't stack up. And that really is a reflection of the state of the thermal coal market around the world. But it is a market in deep decline. In China it's in decline, and India is following exactly the same path as China.
But as the Minister pointed out, though, this came after some activists turned up and protested at a Westpac event that suggests there might be some public relations involved.
Well, I think the banks are a bit tougher than making commercial decisions based on a few young activists turning up to their birthday party. I mean, this reflects the state of the thermal coal market, particularly in India. I mean, the assumptions that are underpinning Malcolm Turnbull's view of the Adani project just bear no relationship to the reality of what's happening in India. You simply need to read their electricity plan for the next 10 years that was released in December. It says a couple of things. It says they won't be building new coal-fired power stations over that entire decade. Instead, they'll be building about 350 gigawatts of new solar and wind power. That's the equivalent of 7 Australian electricity systems, the entire Australian electricity system. But crucially for the Adani project, what the Modi government has also said is that they intend to phase out thermal coal imports entirely by 2020. I mean, the Energy Minister from India, Piyush Goyal, was saying this in speeches while Malcolm Turnbull was in India earlier this month, and the data indicate that that is what is already happening. Thermal coal imports for India are down by about 35% since 2015, and if anything, that rate of decline is accelerating at the moment. We've seen month-on-month figures in January and in December last year that indicate that the annual decline in thermal coal imports is running to about 25%. And I think we just need to be honest about this. There is no demand for additional thermal coal imports. Indeed, the demand for thermal coal exports from Australia is actually in decline. And if by some miracle, probably because Malcolm Turnbull throws $1 billion of taxpayer funds at this project, it ends up starting, it will simply displace existing coal operations elsewhere in Australia. So there will be jobs lost elsewhere in Queensland, or there will be jobs lost in the Hunter Valley.
So do you say straight out you don't want the mine to start?
Well, this will be a commercial decision made by the Adani project, but I think the assessment of Westpac, I'll back any day of the week over the assessment of Matt Canavan, and it reflects the assessment of all the other major banks and investment banks here in Australia and across the world. The demand for thermal coal exports around the world is in rapid decline. And I think instead we should be talking about other economic development and job opportunities for North Queensland. The Queensland government is out this morning talking about hydropower potential in the Burdekin. They're building new utility-scale solar. There is enormous tourism potential, water infrastructure projects, agriculture. Instead, though, for ideological reasons, Malcolm Turnbull is chained to this Adani project that doesn't bear any relationship to commercial reality.